Welcome again to another edition of the Final Cut. We've got a biggie for you now today. We've got this is girl power, and we've got one of the best female presenters and probably any, I'm not saying female, male, best barbers in the globe at the minute with us here on the Final Cut. So welcome for the first time, Hayden Cassidy.
Thank you so much, Simon. It's going to be a fun conversation. I'm excited.
How are you doing?
I'm good, really good.
I think what we'd love for us to do on the Final Cut, and we've got David Foster here, the co-founder of BarberEVO, SalonEVO. I nearly said Andrew Bruce there.
Do you know, you've called me a couple of things the last few days, Simon, but that's right up there.
Well, listen, you know, these are long weeks that we have in London. We want to get to find out a little bit about yourself. I think you are certainly flying the flag for female barbering in particularly, but also as well, I think I've been speaking and I'm doing a lot of research. I was in a college, you'd love this, and I know you've heard it for years about me when people say, who inspire you? It's Simon Shaw, obviously. But how many female girls now are in it?
Yeah.
And I say, who do you look up to? Hayden Cassidy. So it's really nice, and we're going to find out about your journey and some of the highlights in your career as well. But first of all, for anybody who doesn't know you, just give us a quick 2-minute bio about yourself.
So I'm Hayden Cassidy, originally from Dublin, from Ireland, and I've been barbering probably about eight years now. I always get a little bit blurred on the lines because I first picked up at Clippers about probably 9 years ago and then kind of blagged my way into an apprenticeship a few months later. But yeah, I've been traveling, obviously educating the past 6 years. I've worked in Berlin, I've worked in Dublin, I've worked in London. I'm currently in London where I have my own studio, appointment only, one-to-one with clients. And yeah, it's been an incredible journey. I'm this global educator. And there's been many milestones over the last 6 years. It feels like a roller coaster, but it's been an amazing journey so far.
I think that's the amazing thing. I've had a few people over the last couple of weeks who say to me, you're such a fair presenter that you fetch people in from other brands. And I never mention her name, but you see how she dropped the bomb in just in there then. That was nice. It's very tastefully done.
I had to
very,
just
very
slide it
carefully
in there.
done.
Do you know, she's a clever cookie.
Do you know what though? Can you imagine if
anybody
any...
doesn't know that by now?
I'm sure out there you're all watching these and say, Simon's such a fair guy, he gets them all in. But they're shit scared of getting you on their shows because they don't do them.
It was bound to come up. It was bound to come up.
My first question is to you is that it's like, for other females out there, you're doing really well. You're on this big wave of success and things. What's your advice to them? Because I think sometimes it's such a male-dominated industry. We can't get away from that at the minute. And I look at yourself. I look at Andrea Raymond, who works both Irish, by the way.
Yeah. She's amazing.
Southern
She's
Irish
amazing
as well. What's your advice to them? Because I think they're finding it a little bit of a brick wall.
Yeah, there is. There's always, I think, early on in my career, I was in Dublin and I started in Dublin as a junior barber and I went into a barber shop just full of males, as you can imagine, about 8 or 9 years ago. And there wasn't that many people, I suppose, in the UK and Europe that you could see on stages and that were educating. And, there was a few up there, but there wasn't as much as there was that we see the likes of Alan Beak and all these amazing people. So to go into a barbershop and be a minority, I feel, for me, I always just kind of allowed it to be fuel to kind of push me and be like, well, you know what, I can do just as good as you. There was always this hunger and fire for me to be like, well, why aren't we up there? Why aren't we educating? And I think, you do come across difficulties, but in every industry you do, everyone comes across obstacles, whatever career they have. And I feel like my advice for other females in the industry has always just been, take it on the chin. Be as confident as you can. Like, if you're going to go in there, you're going to feel a bit of tension, a bit of pressure. But like I said, just use it as fuel to really push yourself to just do as good as the next person beside you. Our hands are the same as anybody else's. We can create whatever anybody else can. It's just about that determination to just overcome that, I feel.
Do you know, Hayden, I'd love to dig a bit deeper.
Yeah.
Because you're right about this fuel and this passion that you've got. I don't think that we're even doing you justice quite yet, because I've seen you headline in Los Angeles, I've seen you do it in Connecticut, in New York, in Chicago, Premier Orlando, wherever it is.
Yeah.
Like, let's take a moment here. That's incredible for anybody.
Thanks.
Anybody, but Simon's kind of outlined there that it can be a very male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
But you mentioned about that fuel and that fire. Where's that come from? Where did that originate from?
Do you know what? I think like I've always played sports. I played football. I was on a soccer scholarship when I was 17. I got a soccer scholarship over to America and then was competitive, was at the best height of my career and then broke my leg. So that ended that. And I feel like from a young age, I always had that passion and that drive and that push and that fire coming from a competitive nature. And when that happened, when I broke my leg, it was like, what am I going to do now? And I feel like I was determined to find that passion again and to get that fire again, competitively or not, but to get that passion for something. And it took me a while. It took me about 2 or 3 years before I actually found barbering. And I feel like, you know, I was 22 when I started barbering, so I was a little bit later in the game. I didn't go straight after school. But I did have that time to really realise, you know what, I'm going to find something I really love and I really want. And when I got into barbering, I think that competitive fire and that passion really just, I replicated what I had for football and kind of put it in that. And then I was like, right, do you know what? I'm going to prove to myself, prove to everyone around me that I can push myself as much as I can. And, you know, whatever comes my way, I'm determined to kind of overcome that. And I think that's where it came from.
So you mentioned about the scholarship, and if I can just, again, go a bit deeper there, it was in the States.
Yeah.
When it came round to, as your career developed in barbering and opportunities were presented to you to go abroad, to go to places like the States, it's similar to Andrew and I in our story, BarberEVO and SalonEVO. And I look at it and I think, people say to me, what made you do business in the States? How did you overcome that challenge? And I said, well, I went on BritishAirways.com first, right? But do you know what actually made it a lot easier? My dad used to work in the States all the time. Yeah. Now, you had that experience with the scholarship, so instantly that must have helped you remove that anxiety around what's a different country. They might, you know, be less receptive, or was that something that helped you as well, do you think?
Definitely. Like, I remember the first time I was 17 years old and I got offered to go on a scholarship, and I remember looking at my mum and saying, but what if I don't like it? What if everything comes crumbled? And she said, well, do you know what? You get on a flight and you come back home and it's the same as it always has been. And I think that just clicked in my head that like, oh yeah, I can just come home. Like, it's not this big deal. Like, we can change that. If we don't like it, let's change it. And I feel like that travel instinct, and obviously going over at 17 on a plane on my own, getting off to a world I didn't know, and then having that and then realising, oh, it's okay, kind of gave me, like, I mean, even going back through my career of barbering, going to Berlin, I didn't speak German. I never even went to Berlin before I moved over there as a barber. And I feel like I've always just had that in the back of my mind. If it doesn't work out, you just go back and you continue where you started.
You took
Do you know
that
what
experience
I mean? Exactly.
and you actually took the best bit, and it removed that layer of anxiety, and it maybe enabled you to be more focused on the positive things.
Exactly. Like, and that's it. I think sometimes what we can do, not only as barbers, but in every industry, I think we can overthink a lot, right? We're all overthinkers. And I feel like for me, because of what happened, and then also because I broke my leg and I was left with nothing, that overthinking and that anxiety kind of went away, because I was like, first time I got on stage, I was like, well, if it doesn't work out, at least I tried it. But if it doesn't work out, well, either I try again or I go, that's not for me. But like, only I am my worst critic. You're not going to judge me. You're not going to judge me. If it doesn't work out.
I think I do sometimes.
Yeah, I think you do too, Simon.
Of course he does.
But, you know, so I think it's just like, I think it's taken all of that anxiety that we all have, and it's society that gives it to us. I think it's taking that, stripping that, and just doing it.
It's funny, you know, you say about football, you relate it back to football. I'm sure you know my past them, but my son and everything. But I run the Wahl team, and I have done as a football manager. I mean, it's literally, you know, we've just gone through a transition period where I've had to let a few of the older ones now, they're ready to finish off their stage. So it's a younger man's game, and it's just the way you deal with it, but it's the team talks, the preparation, and it's something that I've always striven to do. Is that the way that these are managed is purely, I use all the football knowledge that I have to motivate eye contact, you know. And I found myself as well, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but obviously with my presenting skills, I go into a lot of football clubs and I'll teach the academy managers from under 9s to under 23 levels how to do team talks, how to do preparation, how to do your flip chart, how to contact with everybody. You know, never bollocking people in front of everybody. But let them know that you're not happy. But you're on a one-to-one and just all that kind of stuff. But it is very football dominated how I do things.
Well, it's funny you also said that is because people always say, like, how did you just get up on stage? And like Alan Beak gave me the opportunity to get on stage. I think I was only 6 months cutting hair. So the technicality side of things was not there. But I could talk to a room. You know, I coached football. I worked in teams. I was captain. So if you can talk to a crowd and you can gear them up, I can talk to grown people how to like cut hair. So the communicating side of thing was there. The like at the very start, the technicality side wasn't. But I mean, that's something you learn and you grow and you push and you watch and you understand.
Football,
you know?
and Alan. I mean, I saw somebody's ball skills the other day. Did you see him?
I was wondering how you were going to fit that in.
Beak it. You need to stop it for God's sake. Look, you've had a quick career. I mean, if we look at it, you've come in and you've, as Mika Richard would say, he would say you burst onto the scene. I would say, did you really burst onto the scene? But you did. You've come in and done that, and I think you've done it for yourself. You've done really well. But you'll know yourself. You're getting better now. It's not like you're peaking. You're getting better each time you do it. Your confidence levels are in there. Looking back at the short career that you've had so far, what is your greatest achievement that you'll say that that's the day when I knew that this is happening, or it's the day that I'll relive in my head a few times because it was a magic moment? What's the day?
Yeah, like, great question. And you know what? I think for me, like, there's pivotal moments that happen weekly, monthly, and that might be from, you know, working beside someone or meeting a client that's been inspirational, or like the small moments for me are always just as good as the kind of bigger moments. But I think going back on the career as a whole, like, I'll never forget, I did one of the biggest shows I've ever done was Barber Day conference in Brazil. And I remember getting that opportunity, and I did 6 models, 4 hours on stage to thousands of screaming Brazilians. And first time ever over that side of the world. And I remember, like, there's a video I have of me kind of thinking beforehand, and you can see I have the mic on, I'm ready to go on. And for a split moment, I always kind of go on and, like, let's just get on and do it. But there's a moment in my eyes where I'm literally, like, shitting myself. You know, like, I'm like, what is going to happen here? But something happens when you get on stage, you know yourself, Simon. Everything goes away and you're just on that stage communicating, right?
Switch. I'm quite a calm person.
Yeah.
Just before I go on stage, it's quiet. Especially abroad. I was saying earlier, you two travel quite a lot together, which, again, you know, you need to grow up a little bit. It's a bit weird sometimes, all this twinning up and everything. But one of the things that I tend to do is, and I'm going to ask you the same question, do you have any not pre-match, but pre-show rituals?
Yeah.
I'm very, not superstitious, but there's certain things that I will do in an hotel before I'm going to go to the venue, or sometimes I'm a prima donna. I'm like,
really?
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
I would never have believed, Simon. Never.
I'll say to everybody, where we're staying is the venue, and normally they have to, like, we're doing the show's going to be in the hotel, it's going to be in the venue. And I'll have this little routine that I do, and it's like always I want to walk behind stage on my own, and I've always got me headphones in, and I'll play National Anthem just before I come on.
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
it gives you that boost, right?
It boosts me up. And everything goes out. Whatever you've got going off at home, whatever's on your job is that you've got 45 minutes, you're doing one haircut, you've got loads of stuff happening. That's it for that 45 minutes. Headphones, National Anthem, out we go. What's yours?
Do you know what I love doing? I mean, that Brazil show was insane. Like, it was a whirlwind. It was incredible. And what really calmed me down, I think beforehand, was chilling with the models backstage. And I love being behind a chair. I love being on stage, but I love being behind a chair. So getting to know the models, chilling, having a laugh. Like, they always say, oh, you're nervous going on like this big stage? I'm like, no, it's grand. I just treat it like a barbershop vibe, you know? Like, music's on, trimming hair, prepping the hair, whatever. And I think, that not being out watching other people, I think being backstage with the models, prepping, and just having a laugh. And then going on, you just walk on.
Watch anybody else.
You know? No.
Do you know, I think there's something in that, because anybody that knows you, you put them at ease.
Yeah.
And that's a real quality that a lot of folk don't have and won't be able to grasp. But you put them at ease. And I reckon if you are putting the models at ease, you'll get that back.
Yeah,
tenfold.
exactly. It's
And then
energy.
that gives you that courage, and that it gives you that extra 5% perhaps
Exactly.
you need
Yeah.
to be able to do it with the audience there.
Exactly.
And honestly, that is something that's very, very apparent with you.
Yeah, I think when, especially on these stages, right, like 5 models going on stage for 4 hours, or even Modern Barber, SalonEVO, whatever it is, I think as long as you can grab that energy and that vibe and just not only reassure yourself, but reassure the people around you, like, come on, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
We're going to have a good time. You know, we're putting on a performance. Let's just all have a great time. And you're right, you know, you put on your intro music, your models are walking out feeling great, and you're giving them that boost. So you're right. It just, it reflects you, right?
I said in a couple of shows ago about one of my rituals. Sometimes I'm driving in car and I've got my voice over to stuff in car, because I just enjoy that kind of stuff. Do you know what? I was thinking about something. You know, you just said there about working for the brands that we work for, which we're very fortunate and blessed to do that. But sometimes you get asked to do satellite stands. Let's say HJ, they might have other sub stands that you go and work for. You've not got your own crowd, so it's like playing away from home. So you go to these stages, and sometimes they've got, all you have is a little name that Aidan Cassidys on at 2 o'clock. You turn up there, you've got your soundtrack, you might have your intro video, but sometimes you haven't got the audience there. I look then at this, and I've seen you do this as well, but you can go and you might have 15 people in audience, and you know there's 100 chairs there. You're thinking, I've just left that stage where there's 2,000 people watching it. You could be mistaken for sending a younger presenter to do that. I send my very best. So I'll send Michael Damiano or Alan Beek to go to do those, and I've seen you go do these.
Yeah.
Because you need this talent to go and pull that audience. And I watched Damiano do it, and it's like within 10 minutes, there's 100 sat down.
Yeah.
It's like he's got a magnet.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing, like, as much as the big stages are great, but there's nothing like when you're doing a small booth anywhere, and you're doing a small booth, and next of all, you look up, there's one person hanging on to every word, and then the next time you look up, there's 50, and then there's 100, and you're
talent.
like, yeah,
Do you
okay.
know what? That must be like something you wish you could bottle and just drink over and over again. That must be an incredible feeling.
He's
being able
selling
to
it
do
next.
that.
After this podcast,
yeah.
that's his next
Well,
venture.
yeah, it's maybe next venture, obviously. I think you've always had that knack, we've worked very closely together the last couple of years, but you know when you're in a room, when we speak, you've got that knack.
Yeah.
If I speak, I know I drag people.
Yeah.
I tell you where the real talent is. I don't know if you've done it yet. So coming out the barbering, coming out of hairdressing and everything, if you're at home, and if you're at a wedding or a christening or something, then you speak. That's when people come up to me and say, do you do TV stuff? I'm like, you're a shit hot at talking to people. I'm like, that's what I do for
Yeah,
a living.
exactly.
You only know when you come out of our field, because we get judged quite a lot by other barbers and other people. Well, these lot do. I'm obviously on a different level. But it's like, kind of like when you're in that arena where you're away from everything else, that's when people say to you, oh, mate, I can imagine you're the same if you went to a wedding and you had to do a speech and stuff. You'd be really good at getting up there and getting everybody going.
Yeah.
I can feel, I don't know about the crew and everything, you can feel the energy off you.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's happened a few times at weddings. I've been just a guest, and next of all, it's like, oh, the maid of honour got the jitters about saying a speech. Can you get up? I'm like, I don't even know the people, but I will.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be able to.
Yeah.
This is actually giving me the fear a little bit, because I'm someone's best man at a wedding pretty soon. So
that's
get the recording of that.
That's coming up in a few weeks, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Flying
indeed.
off to somewhere sunny.
Yes,
for that
no,
one.
I'm getting on.
Not secret location.
Much like the two of you, I don't have any fears with that. But what I would say is, looking at it from the outside in, I think what's happening there is that people underestimate what a barber goes through.
Oh,
And they
100%.
Yeah.
Someone told me recently, they said it's the cheapest form of
Therapy,
therapy. Yeah,
100%.
like
I mean,
it just shows you.
Do you know what? I've really noticed this. Like, I've worked after COVID. I decided to do a one-chair studio, not work in a barbershop anymore, and it's the best thing I think I've ever done, because it really gives me that one-to-one with every client that sits in my chair. And don't get me wrong, I come home and I don't want to speak to anyone for like the rest of the night, because I'm so drained. Like 15 people, 45-minute conversations about, like, when there's closed walls, you couldn't imagine the conversations I'm having with clients. But you get that connection. And I always think, as a barber, I say it all the time, human connection and communication is one of the most important things in the world, hands down, in every industry. And I think we, as barbers, as hairdressers, have really being able to master it in a beautiful way where there's not that tension, there's not that pressure. You make people, like you said earlier, put at ease, you know, and that's a beautiful quality to have.
What is your like working month now? Because you know, people say, "Oh, does she work in Ireland? Do you work here in London once a week?" Just tell everybody what's a normal month look like for Aidan Cassidy?
Yeah, I mean, like I like you've probably seen, we are always bumping into each other at shows around the world, but generally what will happen is I'll get booked for shows, you know, or education things or whatever it is, seminars, and what I've worked out best is a month in advance I'll open up my appointments and just say the 1st of July they're open for the 1st of August. I'll already have my calendar for that month into what is scheduled in. So I don't work Monday to Friday 9 to 5. I'll work them days. So sometimes it's 4 days a week, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 1, but I'll work the hours of a week in 2 days. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just to get everybody in. I have a full client list. Them appointments get up straight away. But I always accept new clients because I think, you know, I send a blast message to all my clients who are in my system to say, look, the appointments are up. Any of them other appointments will get filled with people through word of mouth, social media, people who are just visiting. And it's a great way to work it because, you know, I don't have to do that thing where if your set days are in 9 to 5 and you get a call to do a fellowship education workshop or, you know, whatever it is, you're going to then have to reschedule your clients, right? And we all hate rescheduling clients.
Whereabouts do you do this though? Where do you base yourselves? In different places?
No, just I have a one-chair studio in Hackney, East London.
All right, so you're here permanently.
Permanently here.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll put Aidan's links into the show as well and contacts. So
yeah, one chair studio. I opened up after it was after lockdown. I just realised I have all this time on my hand. I need to put it to some use. We couldn't travel.
Yeah, fantastic.
I was only guest spotting, so I worked on creating a website, creating a business plan, and just decided that was the best way I was going to work. And it's amazing.
Are you enjoying it?
Loving it.
Would you advise other people if they've got the opportunity of doing that?
You know what? I just did a guest spot there in New York in a barbershop called Mildred, which was incredible. And it was the first time working in a barbershop in 2 years, and I was actually with Danny Robinson, and he was doing a bit of content for me, and he goes, "You're gone very quiet." And I was like, I'm a bit nervous going into a barbershop again, you know, because I'm so used to being on my own. Yeah. But it was brilliant. It was an amazing experience. It was great to be with the lads. I love being back in the barbershop, but also, you know, in your own space, you control the energy, you control the vibe, you can control the music, the sense, whatever it is. And I think that in my stage of my career, because going and educating and doing all these shows, you know what it's like. It gets so overwhelming. We meet so many people that come into my studio is like a little safe space, you know?
Yeah, it fetches you back down to earth
exactly.
as well. Like you say, you come back from a show in Brazil and you had all these people there. I always think we were speaking to Clive from the CE1 studios here, Clive Silver. And I was saying about when we did shows in like Thailand, I always think it's one of the best places because you feel like, wow, there's been 1,000 people there and you've got 2 or 3 hours afterwards doing the media stuff. And everyone wants to have a piece of you. And there's a lot to go around over here. But you've got to come back to normality. Yeah. So I tend to get back to my local pub where within 20 minutes there's 2 guys at bar arguing over eggs.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that affects you back down to earth. Because no one asks me. If they don't ask me, I don't even tell them.
No.
I don't want to talk about it. I'm very, I don't want to talk about what I do.
Same. After, it's often I've gone back home to Dublin or something after a show and people will be like, you're just after being, I don't know, to Miami, to Vegas, to LA or whatever it is. And you come back and, like you said, go into one of your favourite pubs, sit down, meet a mate, and they'll go, how have you been? Yeah, great. That's it. Don't ask me anymore. Do you know what I mean?
But do you know what's funny? Like, I think a lot of people that are looking at it and think, oh, you're here, you're there, it looks like it's incredible. They always forget about the travel, they forget about time away from home, from loved ones, you name it. And I get that feeling as well. It's almost like, you know, how have you got nothing to say? And it's like,
you guys travel quite a lot.
This is it. Like, this is it. You know, crazy spells of travel. But you genuinely do. You kind of swallow it and you kind of bury it.
Yeah.
And there's only so much you'll give out, but it has to be when you're ready.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
for that conversation.
Yeah.
And folk don't understand that.
I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
question for you, because obviously you're in North America a lot with your magazines, and I always look at BarberEVO in particular, probably being now the #1 magazine in America. So you've done it the other way around, haven't you? You've smashed America, then come back to the UK, where a lot of people try and do it the other way around. Do you see a lot more? Because I do when I'm in America, I see a lot more Aiden's about, and it's a lot stronger
In
there
the
than what
States
is.
than we do in the
She's
UK.
kind of flying the flag here for everybody. And do you see a lot in the magazines? And
Do you know what it is that always impresses me? And I've said this to Hayden on many an occasion, but it's almost normal for us to see her headlining, Connecticut Barber Expo stage, Premier Orlando stage, whatever it may be. It's normalised now, but that's a shame. It's normalised because it's almost like we lose sight of how amazing that is.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
It is always, I will have to say, it's always nice, I think, when we're away and we're at these shows, and obviously you're far away from home, far away from your industry, your community that you're used to, and then you see these two lads and you're like, it's okay, I have a bit of home with me.
Yeah.
If you guys were all about, forgive me if you were, but I'm going back about 6 or 7 years, probably just before your time, but you'd end up going to a place like North America, Chicago, or you'd be in Canada. And there's like a group of English guys that were always at these events.
That's what
You'd
happens
see
still.
Joff, Rob Braid, the late Sam Wahl.
Yeah.
And it's like a safe part.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Even though you weren't like working with them, it's like you'd always make sure you had a beer with them in
100%.
an hotel, and I think a lot of people don't see that. I mean,
No. Yeah, I mean,
you work with at your brand.
Yeah.
He'll tell you how close I've become with him in terms of I'll give him advice, I'll talk to him, we'll share stories with each other. I think everybody thinks everybody's enemies, and that's just
definitely
not what
definitely
it is.
do you know what? The biggest saver, I think, Connecticut Barber Expo was one of the biggest shows like that in my mind. I was going to, I think, last year, and in the corner, the way the stages are, like you can kind of see the whole hall. One side I could see Danny, the other side I could see you guys, the BarberEVO lot, and then I could see Alan, and we all, after every haircut we did, we all went, right, how are you? How
It's almost like hummingbirds, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's like it's like a dose of what your normality is, and actually it's nice just to kind of share it because you appreciate the travel that's gone in, the effort that's gone into that point, and even just like I find I've got to tone down the accent.
Oh,
I've got to
100%.
Americanise this, right?
What you say?
Exactly, but
I'm struggling here, by the way.
Yeah,
even
two
that,
strong
though, like,
accents.
you have to, sometimes you do have to strip
Before
it
we
back.
finish this episode, I'll tell you both a little joke as well. Before we finish, I've got to do the the usual final cut.
Have you got it?
I've got it already. It's a long one, but it'll be quick because the crew are looking at me. Aidan, what's your favourite place you've ever worked?
I would probably, the two places that I think really stand out for me was the Brazil, amazing people, so energetic, so passionate, so lovely. Indonesia was another one that was also incredible. Just to allow your career to get you to places like that is unbelievable. I love to travel. One of the reasons I got into barbering was to travel. And I've seen more of the world that I could even imagine, But there's places in Europe I love as well. Greece is incredible. The barbers are so welcoming.
And good as well.
Yeah, Spain. I've done a lot of work with Spain lately, and they've been amazing as well. And, everywhere you go, I think what's beautiful is you're introduced to the same industry but new communities, right? And that's a beautiful thing, and I'm so grateful for that part of the job.
I think you said something there, and it's true. Obviously I'm a lot older than you, but
yeah.
I would look in my career, and I don't look it. I would look in my career and think I've travelled places I would never have gone on vacation.
Yeah.
And I've actually gone back to those places
100%.
on vacation because I enjoyed it so much.
100%.
But I've been to places where you've gone once and you've experienced it, probably won't ever go back, but I can put it down that I've done every continent. And it's nice to tick these places off and work in them.
See, when people talk about, when they come out of school and they're looking at it and thinking, what do I want to do with my life? And barbering and hairdressing, unfortunately, isn't always high up that list. But if you think that the places you guys have been to, the two of you, and the opportunities that you've had, and then, as you say, sometimes you'll go back to have vacations in these places, and you're doing that for your job. That's incredible. 99% of the population could only dream of that.
Hey, I just came back from Miami. I did a workshop with Josh LaMonica, and literally got there, landed on the Friday night, went to bed, woke up on the Saturday. Right, what do we do now? Have a day of rest. went down to Miami Beach, and that's a work trip. I was like,
It is. It's
we
incredible.
What is
were saying,
this?
though, we were talking and I was saying that, now I will travel and I'll get there the day before I'm
Yeah.
working. I have a full day for prep. But then I used to want to get take my case to the last seminar day,
100%.
and then I'd be like getting the plane. As soon as I finish
Yeah.
I'll
No.
go the day after, and
I think-
and I'll do a tour, or I'll go on a tour bus and have a look round. And
it makes a massive difference. I've done it the same the last couple of trips where I've like, do you know what? I really just want to experience this place rather than going from place to place to place. Like sometimes our schedules, we have to do that. But I think just, like this year especially, and I think after COVID, to be honest, I realised the opportunities that we did have. And there's nothing like stepping off the plane, putting your suitcase away, going for a walk in a new city,
That's the
and just
moment.
grounding yourself.
That's the moment. Yeah.
Do you get other girls asking you for advice? Do you get any direct?
Definitely.
You do get that.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I'm honestly, anybody even listening to this podcast, I'm always here, and I had amazing mentors along my journey. Alan Beaker's one of them. He's always been by my side, always for any advice that I've needed from the very beginning of my career, and I'll always be so grateful for that. And I think as barbers who have gone around and have seen parts of the industry that maybe many people haven't, I think it's always so important, which is great why we're doing podcasts like this, to share experiences, to be open about the good and the bad, and to give advice when it's needed. Because, there's been words that I've got from some mentors along the way that I think I still to this day will carry them, and they'll still be, I'll still do something and I'll think back to a piece of advice maybe someone gave me, and I'll go, I needed that right now. I needed to remember that piece of advice. Yeah. So my books, my DMs are always open for people who are looking for advice.
Excellent. Well, you heard it here on Final Cut. She's open for all kind of counselling, mentoring, free of charge. She's open 24 hours a day. And
the cheapest form of therapy.
We're going to put Aidan now through the Final Cut mill. We're going to find a little bit about your personality. First question, quick fire questions.
Okay.
Night out, Danny or Killian?
Danny.
Woo! Robinson,
Yes.
eh? Has he played the trick yet where he puts his watch inside a pint pot just to see if it's real?
I've seen it, but you know what? I'll have to
Cheater
say,
mill lad.
I'll say it on this podcast. Danny is very tame with me, and I don't know whether it's a little bit like.
He is.
Have you seen it?
Well,
You've seen
Connect. Yes, he is.
He is. He's tame
You're not
with
the
me.
first person to say this
Yeah.
as well. Yes.
Just so she got the wrong answer there. It's got to be both of them.
It does have to be both of them.
They are
You're
a
right.
bit like a gin and
They are.
tonic.
Yeah, they are. Beavis and Butthead, I'd like to call them.
You know, it was Tarek. who said
Cracker
that
and
to me.
cheese. What do you mean cheese? Anyway, different subject. What's your favourite music?
I like everything. I'd say old school hip hop, but indie. I love the Stone Roses. They're my favourite all time band in the world. So
What's your favourite drink?
Guinness.
Guinness. I like it when they do them clovers on top and free. Favourite destination for vacation?
Greece.
Greece. It's getting a bit popular that this year. Isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
Santorini,
lovely.
everybody seems to be flying off.
Greece is lovely. Good food, good people.
Yeah. What's your favourite food?
I like anything. Put anything in
Last
front of
meal.
me, I'll eat it. Last meal, probably very hard. Probably a Sunday roast, just classic. Sunday roast and a pint of Guinness. Can't go wrong.
And who would be your ideal dinner date? Who would you like to have a couple of hours with? A Guinness, Sunday dinner, just having a chat.
Stone Roses on in the background.
Probably, yeah, Stone Roses on in the background, and I think that's a very tough question. I would probably go with, I don't know, there's loads of you, Simon, me and you.
Okay.
Sunday roast and a couple
I've
of
never
Guinness.
felt more like a third wheel in my life.
And you, and like, I mean, he said one person, but if I can say
He
both.
said me first.
Andrew's wedding is where I want to be. That table.
Hey, get used to it on the Final Cut. We have lots of guests on that are getting married, and there's no invitations whatsoever. I need to
Yes.
brush up on my skills. We have one of the globe's best hairdressing, barbering presenters, Aidan Cassidys. New kid on the block, 8 years in this industry, and she's really flying the flag for all the female barbers and hairdressers out there. It's brilliant to have you on. But Aidan's listening to some nice hip-hop music. She's having a favourite Sunday lunch in a beautiful place somewhere in Greece, listening to some Stone Roses, and she's doing all this with me. And we're chatting about our Clipper brands together and what a fantastic podcast we did back in 2023. Aidan Cassidys.
Thank you so much.
David Foster, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm Simon Shaw. Join us on our brand new podcast, The Final Cut, where we're going to be talking all things hairdressing, barbering, business, awards, and so much more. Give the link below a little click and follow us on our social medias here at The Final Cut.